On the one hand, it's very pleasant to see quite familiar faces over here. And but I was hoping that we would come together for a different reason. As I mentioned, unfortunately, Klal Yisrael are very much still strongly need the Yeshua's min Hashemayim, and when we say the davening in Ma'ariv, Shomer Amo Yisrael Load, really extra emphasis should be said when we get to those words that Kadosh Baruch Hu should really hold the right hand and continue as it was, has preserved us to this time, and continuously there should be the minimized idea, the idea of various casualties and so on and so forth in Klal Yisrael. Let me just say the following regarding the kinus of people getting together here today. That it's a wonderful thing to see people coming together, and the truth is that the Navi Malachi says, Oz nidbru yirei Hashem. When Yidden come together to talk about Yerushalayim, to talk about Tshuva, it's a fascinating thing. Oz nidbru yirei Hashem mishel rayehu. When people come, basically we talk our hearts out, we talk and we bring out our panemius, we express our feelings. So the Navi says, Vayakshev Hashem Vayishma. Because Baruch Hu himself is there and he listens. Vayakshev Hashem Vayishma. Not only listens, Vayikosef Sefer Zikaron Lefonov. Which basically means that when Yirah Hashem get together, getting together simply for the idea to be Me'oyer, for Tshuva and to Yerushalayim, because Baruch Hu listens and he records. He actually records what is being said in a Sefer. So not only being recorded over here with all these modern advances in technology, but it's being recorded in Shemayim. And therefore, tonight, when people have come together, basically to hear, to be Mikabel Divrei Seiris on behalf of the plight of Achenu B'nai Yisrael and Eretz Yisrael, so you have to be aware that Kadosh Baruch Hu is here right now with everybody. Kadosh Baruch Hu is here, this keynote, and not only that, Kadosh Baruch Hu is also taking notes. Kadosh Baruch Hu taking notes, as the Pasuk says, Vayiksha Hashem, Kadosh Baruch Hu is listening, Vayikosef Sefer Zikaron Lefonov. So all those who have come here tonight actually realize to see what we can do on behalf of the Murder Gematzav and Yisrael, are zoichet to be written in that Sefer, that very special Sefer in Hashemayim, that Kadosh Baruch Hu keeps records, everyone who's being involved. So, needless to say that we are living in very frightening times, and the Matzav in Eretz Yisrael is Oyim V'Noira, and the truth is what's taking place today is mamish what Chazal have told us at the end of Masech Tesoita Daf Memches. The Gemara says very clearly, Miyoyim Shechar Beis Hamikdash, Ein Loch Yoyim She'ein Boi Kalola. Unfortunately, a day does not go by where there is no klol. If it's not over here, it's over there, it's someplace else in different areas. And literally, the truth is we're afraid to hear the news, because who knows what the next piece and bit of information will be, something, one tragedy after another. Here you have another stabbing, then you have another stabbing. But then it says the world Bechlal is on fire. It's not just the Matzav in Eretz Yisrael, just in general, and is ready to explode any moment. And what intensifies and what aggravates the situation all the more is because, Rabbi said, because we are confronted today with the same dilemma that Rabbi Kiva, the great Tana Rabbi Kiva, was confronted 2,000 years ago. And that is the following. There's a very fascinating Chazal that tell us, Mesechtes Sanhedrin, Daf Kuf Aleph. I listened to this little piece of Gemara, just a few lines. The Gemara tells about how the great Tana Rabbi Lezer, when he became sick, and his great Talmidim came to be Mevakeh Choyle. And the Gemara says over there, Kishechola Rabbi Lezer, Rabbi Lezer took ill, says the Gemara, Nichnesu Arba Zekedim Levakrei. 4 great Talmidei Chachomim, Gedolei Yisrael, came to visit him. Who are the Talmidim? One was Rabbi Tarfon, one was Rabbi Yeshua, one was Rabbi Loza ben Azariah, and the other was Rabbi Kiva. So each one had something to say to his Rebbe. And the Gemara tells us the following, Nenu Rabbi Tarfon v'yomar. Rabbi Tarfon began and he speaks out and he says, Rebbe, you are so important to us. Toiv atali Yisrael metipa shel gishamim. You are more important. The toiv, the benefit that Klal Yisrael gets from you is more than a drop of rain. Everybody understands that you can't survive without any rain. So Rabbi Tarfon, but you, Rebbe, toiv atali Yisrael, you are more important to us than a drop of rain. Then it's Rabbi Yeshua's turn to speak up. And now Rabbi Yeshua v'yomar, Rebbe, toiv atali Yisrael, yosem megalgol chamo. You are more important to us, he says, than the revolution of the sun. We know that the world cannot exist if we would not have the sun. Yet, Rebbe, you are more important. Toivato Yisrael, you are more important than the Galgal Achamo. The Rabbi Ben Azariah now, how can you outdo all that? Comes the Rabbi Ben Azariah and he says, Rebbe, Toivato Yisrael, you are more important than more than a father and a mother. As much as a child cannot exist without a father and a mother, what kind of a life will he have? But Rebbe, you are more important to Klal Yisrael than a father and a mother. So how do you top that? Then come the famous words of Rabbi Kiva, which nobody understands. Rabbi Kiva says, Rebbe, you're suffering. Chavivin Yisurim. Yisurim is a good thing. Hafel of a fella. Is that what you see? You go to be Mevakar Choyle someone, you try to speak of spirits, try to lift them up, you try to give him chizuk, and you try to give him all types of association that he should understand that, look, other people maybe went through the same thing, and they had a Refuah Shalema. And Rabbi is sitting here, Rabbi Loza ben Azariah, Rabbi Yeshua, Rabbi Tarfim, everybody is saying something positive, and then comes Rabbi Kiva and says, Rabbi Chavivin Yisurim. What does that mean? The fascinating words of Rabbi Chaim Shmuel Zamir Rosh Yeshiva. And he says something which is a dover nifla meyoid. He says, each of these Tanoim, you understand, we're trying to make a case in Shemayim that Shemayim should allow the great Rebbe, that Rebbe Lezer should be able to stay alive. And the way that they did it is by making a case in Shemayim that the world can't exist without him. So everybody in his own way was trying to point out why it's important. Why is it important that Rabbi Lezer receives a Refuah Shalema? So one says, Rabbi, he says, you're important to us than a drop of rain. We can't exist without any rain. We can't exist without you either. The other one says, Toivato Migalgal Chamo. We can't exist without a son. You are more important than the son. We need a father and a mother. Rabbi, you're more important. And what's Rabbi Kiva saying? Rabbi Kiva is also making a case why we need Rabbi Lezer down here. And what is he saying? Rabbi Kiva says, Chavivin Yisurim, you know what that means? So Rabbi Chaim Shmuel says, Hafla v'fela, as much as you need a Rabbi to teach you Torah, as much as you need a Rabbi to teach you Shemayim, more than anything, you need a Rabbi to teach you the meaning of suffering. When there's suffering in the world, they're stabbing over here and they're stabbing over there. And in America, this person's sick and that person's sick. And you have all types of sorrows, parnasa problem, shidduch problem. You have all different crises. You have to realize there is there has to be a reason why this is happening. And you need a Rebbe for that. Because this is something that's continuous. Kozman that we are in Golis. And we are not yet Zoichet to be a Mashiach. There's always going to be suffering someplace in the Jewish community, someplace in the world. And the mail what Rabbi Kiva was saying, Chavivin Yisurim, what it means to say, not it's good that you have Yisurim. Chavivin Yisurim means like Baruch Hu sends Yisurim, there's a message. It's trying to make us aware of something. But how do we know what HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants from us? So he says, Rabbi, Chavivin Yisurim, HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends Yisurim. There's something so precious about it. There's a reason. There has to be a meaning. It should not be all for naught, not suffer for nothing. So we need you, Rabbi. We need a Rabbi to teach us the meaning of suffering. Why Klal Yisrael is going through and all of this kind of suffering. That's why we need you. More than anything, we need a Rebbe to tell us the meaning of suffering. As Chaim Shlavich says many, many times, that the word Yisurim is from the word of Musar, which means that HaKadosh Baruch Hu does not give Yisurim just for the sake of punishment. HaKadosh Baruch Hu wants to hurt Chaz v'Shalom any Yid in Klal Yisrael. The reason that there are Yisurim because there is a Musar to be learned. But unfortunately, all too often we're not very sure exactly what is that Musar, what is that message, what in fact does HaKadosh Baruch Hu really want from us. Well, so when the Pasuk says to us, Shoiftim v'shoitrim titen acho b'chol sherecho. Basically what the Pasuk means simply, of course, that every community should make sure that they have dayonim, they have judges, they have shoiftim to paskin shailas, shoitrim, then you have to have officers in order to carry out, to make sure that people follow what the halach is. You need policemen. Shoiftim v'shoitrim titen acho b'chol sherecho. And it says further, lishvatecho, every tribe should have their shoiftim v'shoitrim. Said an Adam Godley said a gewaldige pshat. Listen to this pshat. Shoiftim v'shoitrim titen lecha b'chol sherecha lishvatecha. The word shvatecha, if you know a little bit of Lashon Kodesh, you don't have to be a scholar in Lashon Kodesh. The word lishvatecha, of course, shvatecha, shevet means tribe. We know that. But the word shevet also means a whip. The word shevet also means a whip. Koil asher yaver tachas hashovet, right? When you give meiser, you count 10. The 10th one, under the whip, you strike it. This is the Meiser Behema. Or the Pasuk says, B'shevet evrosoi. We find the Megillah Seicha. Shevet is a whip. Says the Pasuk said this Adam Godel. Shoiftim v'shoitim titen l'cha. Lishvatecha, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu strikes you with a whip, you need shoiftim, you need someone to explain it. Why were you hit? Why were you struck? Why did it happen? Shoiftim v'shoitim titen l'cha. Make sure that you have judges properly. You have Erlich Hayin, you have Tzadikim. You have Gedolei Yisrael that are trying to give the message, transmit what the message might be in Hashemayim. Lishvatecha. We are undergoing situations of a shevet, of great, great difficulty. And the truth is that was the way always of Gedolei Yisrael. Reb Shalom Shadron, the Oelbaum might remember many, many years ago, he used to frequent this community very often, almost on a yearly basis, almost. And we had the privilege, I mentioned many times in Shul, to have him at the Shabbos table. Shabbos he spent by us, he slept by us, we gave him a room, and so on. And we would hear from many personal things. Of course, there's so many tapes and so many droshes. But ain't a dime, when you hear from himself. Shalom used to say, of course, of the many Balamusar that was his Rabbi, and he, by the way, published the Sfarim of his great Rabbi, Rabbi Oelbaum, or Rabbi Chasman, and so on and so forth. He brought the Torah to the masses, the Torah of these great Balamusar, the masters of Musar. So he says that once they saw that the Mashgiach, Rabbi Oelbaum, they saw that when he was coming to Yeshivas Kamenetz, he came to visit Yeshivas Kamenetz, so when he's going up the stairs, he fell, he slipped. And Mamela, he remained sitting on the step. So people right away came very, very, very quickly. So they came to ask him, he says, Rabbi, do you feel okay? Are you okay? Are you all right? The great Mashgiach, he slipped, he fell. He's sitting on the step, he's not getting up. So he says, yeah. No, I feel perfectly. Fine, everything is fine. So he said to him, then why aren't you getting up on your feet if you feel fine? So he says, I'm sitting and contemplating why it happened. Why it happened. Yisurim is from the Lashon of Musar. There's a message. Because Baruch Hu wants something. And the Oelbaum, if he slipped, he didn't just get up. He was okay, Baruch Hashem, at that time. But he continued to sit. The reason he continued to sit, to figure out, before he gets up, he wants to know, why did it happen? Why did I fall? What does the HaKadosh Baruch Hu want from me? There has to be a message. Truth is, there was a woman in Eretz Yisrael who gave birth to a child, which was a handicapped child. Handicapped child. And you can imagine that the surrounding all the family members took it very hard, very difficult. And this is very only natural. Her parents took it very difficult. If a new Einikel was born, the simcha was blunted by the fact that unfortunately they saw that the child was a handicapped child. And the immediate family around, all of them, they took it quite difficult. And she kept saying, the woman, the mother of the child who gave birth, she says, I know why it happened. I know why it happened. She said, I know why it happened. Turns out that this mother of this child, she was what they call in Israel a ganenet. She was a kindergarten teacher. And of course, people are trying to get their child in. A particular day, a mother comes with a handicapped child. And she wants to register the child in the kindergarten. And this woman who is the kindergarten teacher says, I cannot accept your child. And the mother pleaded and said, I need a place for my child. Says, I'm a working mother. I cannot be with him. I can't stay with him. I need a place. Please take him. She pleaded. She begged. And she said, B'shum oifim, I will not. I can't accept this handicapped child. So he said, now I see how HaKadosh Baruch Hu paid me back. HaKadosh Baruch Hu paid me back for the fact that I refused to accept in my kindergarten this handicapped child. In order that I should understand it, I should also feel the pain of a mother. I should also feel the same pain of a mother, what it means to have a handicapped child. And maybe next time I'll understand a little better. And the idea is to try to avoid it, shouldn't have to come to a situation. But here somehow it seems very clear what the message was. Only she would know what happened because she was part of that experience. She understood the lishvatecha. She understood what the shevet, this whip, the fact that she was stricken with this particular situation or stricken, she understood the shoftim v'shoitrim. What is the message to shofet, to judge what happened over here, to understand and to take the message. And the lesson, of course, is that HaKadosh Baruch Hu works midah keneged midah. You might remember also in Queens, also the famous Maggid used to come along also, Rabbi Yankel Galinsky used to come. We had him once speaking by Shalashudas. And I think in the opening line, Mamish, the first words that he said, We're living in a world, he says, where all midos are bottled. There's no such thing as midos anymore. No such thing as midos. There's not such thing as fine character. There used to be a time where, even by the Oelbaum, by the Tovim Shebumois, by the Tovim Shebumois, you found there was a line that even Goyim would not cross. There's certain things you just don't do. If you're a civilized person, there's a certain gather of tznius, even a minimal gather of tznius. A certain gather of shmiras alosh, and a certain gather minimal Tovim Shebumois. Now there's all the barriers have been broken. There's no gvul anymore. There's no inyan of midah. We're living in a world where all the midah are bottled, except one midah. Midah keneged midah, he said. Midah keneged midah did not become bottled. This midah still remains. Because Baruch Hu judges each and every one of us the way that we behave. Ben odom lachavera, the way we behave. Ben odom lamokoim. That midah did not become bottled. And that is the message when we see shoiftim v'shoiftim titel to make sure l'shvatecha. When the Kodesh Baruch Hu sends that shevet, you have to realize that there's a reason why you have been stricken. When the Kodesh Baruch Hu sends all the various Taurus, that means obviously what we're trying to do, we're not doing enough. And maybe if we're davening, we're not davening enough. And maybe if we're learning, we're not learning enough. And maybe if we think we're doing chesed, we're maybe not doing it b'lishma, maybe we're not doing enough. And there could be many, many reasons why what we're doing, there's many, many deficiencies in what we are doing. Ma'aseh Shehoya was that particular woman, a secular woman. Whenever she would see a Haredi woman with her hair covered, she would actually mock her, laugh at her, and always stick her and say, look, what's the idea here? Because Baruch Hu, natural thing, woman has hair, everybody has hair. What's this idea that you're covering your hair? Every opportunity that she had, she would meet a Haredi woman, she would basically mock her at the particular situation. She'd say, look, you belong to the ancient world. The world is now moving ahead. People used to cover their hair. That's part of the old world. That's something very old-fashioned. That's not what we do today. By the way, who told me this ma'aseh? It was Rabbi Zilberstein, the son-in-law of Rabbi Yashiv. So he said the following, he says, I know, I married this woman, Nebuch was stricken with the machla. And she underwent treatments, which was chemo again, and chemo over again. What are the side effects of chemo? You lose your hair. She put on a sheitel. For the different reasons she put on a sheitel. Now she understood what it means. Sometimes they put on a sheitel. So this is the idea. From then on, she did not mock anymore. She understood. That again, this is the situation which Kodesh Baruch Hu shows us and conducts himself, that the way we deal with others, and that's the way we have to understand that should be the Hagosha. So the basic message is that we talk about midah keneged midah, and that means the following, Rabbi Isai. If you want to be spared Yisurim, then remove pain from another Yid. If you're able to remove pain from another Yid, midah keneged midah, Kodesh Baruch Hu will remove Yisurim from you also. That's the basic thing that you see from all of this. If you want the Kodesh Baruch Hu to be mafkeh Yisurim from your life, try to remove the pain from another Yid. If you're able to remove the pain from another Yid, then midah keneged midah, Kodesh Baruch Hu will also remove the pain regarding yourself. You know, the particular Rav was a Yedid of mine. I spent a Shabbos in the shul when he made a Chanukas Habayis many years ago. Rabbi Yosef Ginsburg used to be a Rav over here in Hillcrest. Then he had moved to the Five Towns, new shul. So we spent a Shabbos there. Actually, I think spoke like 4 or 5 times in the shul. There was a Chanukas Habayis. Rabbi's brother was there as a Baal Tefillah also. It was a very, very nice Shabbos. So he mentioned that a number of years ago, he went to visit Rav Shach in a particular time that he had a lot of problems with his foot. Rav Shach had problems with his foot. And as a result, the doctor said, listen, we can't delay it anymore, but he needs surgery. Rav Shach clearly needs surgery. So they arranged to have a doctor to come to the house. Apparently it wasn't that kind of a extensive surgery that you needed a hospital. He would do it at home. However, the doctor says, of course, we're going to have to bring the kalim for anesthesia because it's a very, very painful situation. And the ma'aseh, very interesting is that Rav Shach said with one tanai he'll go through the operation, but does not want anesthesia. The reason he does not want anesthesia because this would cloud his mind and would detract from his clarity of learning. And it's incredible that sounds. He's not the first. For example, the Chibina Rov, the great Goyen, the Gadol Hador, also of his time, not so long ago, also had surgery, and he insisted. He insisted there's not one anesthesia, but rather his mind. The mind would be occupied with various areas of learning. He would be able to have that full concentration, to have that extreme concentration, so basically he's in a different world. He would not feel the pain. And Rav Shach, the same thing. Rav Shach, the same thing. However, the doctor insisted that if there's no anesthesia, so we want to make sure that he'll be able to handle it and not and keep calm and not jump around all over the place. After all, they might be feeling some pain or a lot of pain. So the Tanai was that somebody will hold his hands and somebody will hold his feet to make sure, because in surgery you have to make sure that the patient doesn't move. And that's what they did. To everyone's amazement, the operation went very smoothly. Rav Shach did not flinch, nor did he utter a sound that indicated any kind of distress. Havla v'fella. He simply lay quiet, and the doctor did what the doctor had to do. Procedure went quite smoothly, and the foot was on his way to healing. So he mentioned, Rabbi Yosef mentioned that a few months later, he says, he happened to be in Eretz Yisrael. He said he visited Rav Shach again, and at that time, he says, someone entered the room to relate some important information to the news. What was information? The information was there was a terrible accident involving an IDF helicopter, and several soldiers died in the crash. So he says, immediately on hearing the news, he says, Rav Shach's face dissolved into expression of grief, and he began to shed tears, endless tears. He cried over the loss of life and the plight of the orphans as a result of that. And what about the almonas that the accidents would bring? And Mamish, he looked at him, his heart seemed to burst with pain. So he said, Rabbi Yosef says, the half of the fellow I thought back 5 months ago, when the doctor were cutting knives into his own flesh, he didn't cry out in pain. But when he heard about the pain of others, heard about the suffering and the pain of others, he heard what happened, that he could not contain, that he could not hold back. And that is a dogma. That's a dogma of every Yid of what it means, how sensitive we have to be. Chaviv in Yisurim, to understand, and to Yisurim when HaKadosh Baruch Hu sends. And our avodah is to try as much as possible, to try to neutralize as much pain as we can to alleviate from other Jews. And if we are able to do that, Bez Hashem, mideh keneged mideh, HaKadosh Baruch Hu will repay us in kind. Many of you might be familiar, even some Sfardim, by the way, also used to travel to Montreal to the Tosher Rebbe. Tosher Rebbe lived way into his 90s, up to 100. I remember, I think, as a young man when he was still in his 30s, something like that, in his 30s. He lived in Montreal. I grew up in Toronto, Canada. I'll just tell you just one incident. There's more, but so we're talking about in the 50s. So I was before my bar mitzvah. And the Satmaruv Rabbi Yoel came to Toronto, Canada. That particular time was in the 50s. And they rented a large hall. You can imagine it was packed with literally thousands of people. And they gave a drosha before Kriyas HaTorah. You can still imagine it was a couple of hours, as the Rebbe darshan. Friday night there was a tish. And you had Rabbonim coming from all over. Not only the local Rabbonim. People came from New York, Hasidim, Rabbonim. And the Tosher Rebbe came all the way from Montreal to spend Shabbos in Toronto to be with the Rebbe. So there was a head table, a long head table, where the Rabbanim were sitting there. And the Tosher Rebbe was sitting there, and then the Satmaruv was a couple of seats further down. And everybody's trying to find a good spot to be able to see what's going on. So the easiest age group to be able to find a spot is, if you're a young kid, you can really hang from the rafters to be able to look and to see what's going on. So right above the head of the Tosher Rebbe, there was a window, and the window, I realized, has a windowsill. So I managed to climb up, and I was on the windowsill, and was right above the Tosher Rebbe, who was down below me. And I had a gewaldige view. So looking around the room, it was a very narrow ledge. I forgot it was narrow. And all of a sudden, I find myself falling down on the hand of the Tosher Rebbe. And the Tosher Rebbe says, it's okay. So I said, if it's okay, I went up again. Yes, I fell again. On his hand. And again, he did not say a thing. Just give you the tzidkes of a yid. The tzidkes of a yid. You should have said, has a spoon. You would have to say, you would have had I could write it better. You know what he would have been able to say, what he should have said. But he did not. This was the Tosher Rebbe. Anyway, he had a son, Reb Mordechai, with his Bechor, his oldest son. I saw him once or twice. And I can imagine he would have been the Malamokim. He would have been the Malamokim of his father to succeed him. He passed away. He was nifter. He was nifter at a young age. He was married already. He was nifter at a young age. What happened, he was nifter on the Erev Shabbos. They used to call him Motel Tosher. That's what they called him, Motel Tosher. He was never on Erev Shabbos. He was still in shul. He done with me Erev Shabbos, and something middle of davening he collapsed. So they called out Sola. They had it Sola, and they thought it's okay. So right away, Mamish, immediately they had the paramedics doing whatever, but didn't take long when they realized it's too late. Now the biggest task was, how do you tell his father? How do you tell his father, Tosher Rebbe? How do you tell his father? It's an all of a sudden. It's not like someone is sick, and it goes off in the back of your mind. You know that it may not work out, so you get used to the situation. It's never a good idea. It's never a good situation. How are you able to relate such a message? But this is all of a sudden. This all of a sudden situation. Who and how are you going to tell his father? And it was important because the Levaya had to be, it was Erev Shabbos, had to be before Shabbos. And by the way, the Tosher Rebbe's minyanim were late also, so they down late to begin with. So they down late to begin with, and it's Erev Shabbos. You have to make the Levaya very quickly. And they have to tell the Rebbe. They went, they told the Rebbe. And they're waiting for the Levaya. The Rebbe locks himself, he's in a room. He's in a room. They say, Rebbe, it's late. You have to come to Levaya. He says, I need another 5 minutes. They waited 5 minutes, he still didn't come out. Again, they knocked on the door, he said, no, I need another 5 minutes. I need another 5 minutes. They didn't realize what happened. I want to tell you what happened. And this Maaseh was repeated by many. He was busy on the phone dealing with the Shalom Bayis problem. He was dealing with a Shalom Bayis problem where the wife wanted to leave the husband. He was trying to do whatever possible to try to convince him at least to give it another try. It didn't go. Besuma, she was not maskim. I can't go back to him. And Rebbe, being the Rebbe that he was, always tried to enforce Shalom, to try to promote Shalom Bayis. So finally he says to the wife, I have a Levaya to go to. He said, his own son, I can't go to Levaya until you go back home to your husband. She did. She did. I don't know what happened at the end of the story later on. I can't tell you. But this was a hafla thing. He did not go to the Levaya of his own son until he's able to do something over here. Here's a Yid who's able to sacrifice his own pain at losing his Bechor, losing his own son, his Bechor. He's not going to the Levaya because I have something to do first, which is more important, he says. I have to see to patch up this problem of Shalom Bayis. It's a hafla of a fellow situation. So I have to tell you is as following. So Avada and Avada, many years ago, quite a few times, the Gaivid in Yerushalayim, Reb Tuvia Weiss, who is the Gaivid, the Rov of the Yedach Redis in Yerushalayim, he's the Gaivid, and the Rosh Bezin is Reb Moshe Sternbuch. You have the Gedolei Yisrael, right there. So I went to visit Reb Tuvia Weiss, who was the Gaivid of Yerushalayim. And I remember telling him over a word from the Rebbe Rabbinim of Pshischa. We say in the davening, Rabbi Sai, we say in the davening as following, the Halalukas every day. We talk about what Hashem, all the chesed Hashem does. We say Hashem matir asurim. Because Baruch Hu unties those that are bound. If someone is imprisoned, Baruch Hu sees they should let him out. If a person is bound and chained for some reason, because Baruch Hu unties the chains. Hashem matir asurim. Hashem unties those that are bound. Hashem poikeach ivrim, we say. Because Baruch Hu gives light to the blind. Hashem poikeach ivrim. Hashem oyev tzadikim. Hashem zoikif kifufim. Those people who are bent over. Those people who are crouched. People who are down. Because Baruch Hu allows them to stand upright. He gives them chizik. He strengthens them. Hashem shomer is gerim. Because Baruch Hu protects the gerim. Yosem v'amona yoided. Because Baruch Hu gives chizik to the Yosem v'amona. Rabbi Sai talks about the blind. It talks about the lame. It talks about the gerim. It talks about amon. Where does Hashem oyev tzadikim? Where were the tzadikim fablonjit with the Yesoim and with the almonis, Rabbi said, with the blind and the lame? Where did the tzadikim, Hashem oyev tzadikim, where did the tzadikim come in here? Where's Hashem oyev tzadikim? You're dealing with gerim, you're dealing with blind, matir asurim, zoikif kifufim, yosam v'amona yoidei. Hashem oyev tzadikim, where's oyev tzadikim? So the Rebbe Rabbinim said, Hashem oyev tzadikim. The Rabbi Shum atlip tzadikim. You love tzadikim. You know what kind of tzadikim? The tzadikim that are fablonjed, that are mixed with the gerim and with the blind, and with the yisoim and with the almonis. Those tzaddikim, Hashem ohev tzaddikim, those tzaddikim that are all mixed in with all of these. Those are the kind of tzaddikim that Hashem loves. Those tzaddikim that care, have a little more room in their heart for somebody else as well. That's Hashem ohev tzaddikim. Those are the kind of tzaddikim. Chacham Ovadia Yosef, very often was a sandik. Very often was a sandik. Not unusual, not hard to believe. You know the halacha is that if you're a sandik at a tainis nitche, the balabris are allowed to eat. If it's a tainis that's a nitche, the balabris includes the sandik, the moil, the abiyaben, they're allowed to eat on the tainis. So he was a sandik at a bris. There happened to be a tainis nitche. It was a tainis nitche. So on the tainis you can't drink the wine when you make the bracha by the bris. So usually you give it to the baby. But being that the balabris, right, the moil, the sandik, they don't have to fast. They can drink the wine. So they were mechabed him to drink the wine. He said, I can't drink the wine. So why don't you drink the wine? So Rabbi Yosef says, he says, because I'm fasting. Well, why are you fasting? He said, you're the sandik. If you're the sandik, it's a tainis nitche, you're allowed to eat. He says, how can I eat? Everybody's fasting. On what? I have to be mishtatev in the tzoras haklal, the tzor of the tzibur. And the tzibur is fasting, he says, I can't eat. I have to be mishtatev, I have to share in the tzar of the tzibur. He fasted. In the apilocha, then I have to fast. But now comes a new dimension. The new dimension is with Rabbi Kotler Torah and Mishnah Sabar. We talk about chesed, 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 chesed. We talk about trying to help other people. It's all gewaldig. Rabbi Kotler basically found out that he said by Moshe Rabbeinu we see a new dimension in chesed. By Moshe Rabbeinu the pasuk says, "Vayigdal Moshe." Moshe grew up. Vayetze Elechov. Last week's parasha. Vayar he saw b'sivloisam. He saw the burden that the Yidden were burdened in Mitzrayim. The famous Rashi. What did he see? What did he see? So Rashi said, not just he saw. Nosan eino v'liboy liyois meitzer aleim. His eyes and his heart to feel for them. He felt their pain. It's not that he saw what's happening to them. Nosan eino v'liboy liyois meitzer aleim. So Rabbi Kotler says a gewaldige thing. Rabbi says that the pshat is two things that we find over here. Rabbi said Moshe Rabbeinu did two things. He shared their burden, number one. He shared their burden. And second of all, he felt their pain. It's a big difference. What's the difference? Here's an example of sharing someone's burden. Right? You see someone in trouble. See someone in trouble. What you do is, you know what? I want to share the burden, so you write a check. It's a gewaldige thing. You're sharing the burden. See someone needs medical attention. Can't afford it. You write a check. That's called sharing the burden. What happens after you write the check? You go home, and life, as far as you're concerned, goes back to normal, and the tsar that other people are going through, that's nothing gay to you. You share the burden, but you don't feel the pain, because it does not affect your lifestyle at all. Moshe Rabbeinu says, Rabbi taught us, it's not enough to share a burden, but important is, he says, to feel the pain. Feeling the pain means is that things just don't go back to normal the way they were. That means to say that when you go back home, you have to have a certain attitude that life cannot just be lived the same way. You also have to somehow change a little bit your lifestyle in order to be able to share in the hargoshe what the other person is going through, said Rabbi. That's what Moshe Rabbeinu taught us. And therefore, it should not be a chiddush, Rabbi said, what the Vurka Rebbe said, one of the great manhiga Hasidus. The Vurka Rebbe said something gewaldig. You want to know Rabbi says, Gulaf Arichas Yomim, everybody wants to live a long life and a healthy life. Well, so the Gemara Megillah Daf Chav Ches said that they asked Reb Zera, Bameh Harachta Yomim. What was the schus that you were marich Yomim? So Reb Zera says the following, and it's incredible what he said. The Pasha doesn't make sense. You know why I was zeicher to be marich Yomim? You know what a gewaldige thing I do? You know the gewaldige thing is that I'm noyeg. You know how I behave? Miyomai, he says, lo isasti bit kolas chaveri. I never rejoiced at my friend's misfortune. In other words, when I saw my friend was down, I never rejoiced. That's a schus, that's a big deal. Is that a big deal when your friend is down that you shouldn't be happy about it? Yeah, how lowly can you get? You should be happy. How low a person would you be that when you see that somebody is suffering, that you don't have to rejoice? That's a godless. Miyomai lo isasti, I never rejoiced bit kolas chaveri. In that chus was zoich varichas yomim. Mele, you don't help a person, but to rejoice. How low a person would rejoice, would be happy when he sees that somebody has a misfortune, and he takes that as a chus. The Vorker Rebbe says that's not what it means. Any average person who has a little heart would not be happy. He's going to rejoice at somebody's misfortune. That's not what he meant. What I meant is something else. Many times, Rabbi say, you have a good occasion, you have a legal occasion, and you have a legitimate reason to rejoice. You're making a bris. Make a bris. Avade. It's a gewaldige reason. Gewaldige reason to be besimcha. You're making a bar mitzvah. It's a gewaldige reason to be besimcha. You're making a pidyon haben. Making a chasana. It's a gewaldige reason. Legitimate reason to be besimcha. Let's imagine you're making a bar mitzvah. And you're gewaldig happy, you're waiting for the day, Baruch Hashem, to see how your child is becoming bar mitzvah. But you find out that a good, close friend of yours, Nebuch, is going through hard times. Mamish, he has to declare bankruptcy. A Baal Madrege says the following: if my friend is suffering, I can't rejoice with my simcha. My bar mitzvah cannot be besimcha. Yes, of course, the bar mitzvah boy doesn't have to suffer. We're going to go through the motions. We're going to do everything. But I cannot fully be besimcha. If my friend is suffering, then it affects my own simcha, my own life. Meyomai lo isasti, I never was besimcha in my simcha. But kolas chaveri, where my chaver had misfortune. That's a madrege. That's a madrege, is that if somebody else is suffering, then you cannot enjoy even your own life, your own legitimate simcha, that you deserve to be besimcha. That is the idea, Rabbi said. That is the feeling. But Rabbi and Kotler Besek is saying, it's not enough to share the burden. You write a check, but your life is not affected at all. Somehow it should affect your life as well. You should feel the pain of the other person. And I think that if we are able to basically come a little bit to Madrega, when we hear what's happening there at Israel, you hear the news, then you close the radio, and you go back and you finish your breakfast, right? That's the usual situation. That's what happens. If we could find in our heart to generate a little of Madrega, to be mishtatev in the tzar of others, you know what you gain? Kosh Baruch will remove the tzar of Eretz Yisrael also. Let me tell you how Kosh Baruch works. The famous Vart of B'Sor Salanter. We can conclude with this soon. B'Sor Salanter says the following: Mishpetei Hashem emes sotko yachdov. Kosh Baruch's judgment is perfect, is emes. Sotko yachdov is righteous for all around. What does it mean it's righteous all around? I'll give you an example. Let's say, for example, Rabbi say, someone breaks the law. Someone breaks the law, so now the judge, sentences that person, he has to go to prison. He deserves to go to prison. He deserves to go to prison. But you know what happens? That person going to prison, not only he's being punished, his wife is being punished. His wife is being punished. She doesn't have a husband. The children are being punished. They don't have a father. But this is the way of this world. The person did an avla. So the court in Oelbaum punishes him, even though there are side effects that don't deserve to be punished. So B'Sor Salanter, Kosh Baruch does not do that. If a person deserves to be punished, but by punishing him, the surrounded Krovim will suffer needlessly, Kosh Baruch removes the tzar from him also. Mishpet Hashem emes sotku yardov. Everybody, the side effects from all the side suffering, that's also righteous. We don't know why. But when something happens, a tragedy in a family, right? And memela, there are others around, could be parents, could be fathers, could be mothers. So many different, others are suffering as a result. If there wouldn't be a reason that they also should suffer, if they should not have a need to suffer, Kosh Baruch would not cause the one who deserves to suffer either. Even if one deserves to suffer, but if it would cause unnecessary suffering for others, Kosh Baruch removes it from also. The mitzvah of Lavoya, there's a mitzvah that you should escort somebody, Daled Amos. Somebody leaves the house. Why is it such a big mitzvah to be malavis someone? Moshe Sternbuch says in Sefer Tam V'Das, because when you're malavis someone, you connect with that person. When you connect with that person, it's a zgula that person should arrive safely. Why? Because if something happens to that person, being that you connected with him, you're also going to have tsar. And if you don't deserve tsar, Kosh Baruch will remove the tsar from that other person as well. I don't know the cheshm why in Eretz Yisrael this is happening. Only Kosh Baruch knows. But Baruch Hashem here in Chutz La'aretz, Halavai should stay that way. But if we would have this tsar and the pain of what's going on in Israel, and if we don't deserve that tsar, Kodesh Baruch will have to remove the tsar from Achenu B'nai Israel as well. That is what's to be gained. That's the Moyer de Gezach that is to be gained. So therefore, to do chesed with your hands, Rabbi Isai, is a gewaldige Gezach. However, Kodesh Baruch Hu wants you to do chesed with your heart. He wants your heart also to feel the pain. So maybe when we go home, Rabbi Isai, so maybe we should deny just a little bit of pleasure, maybe just deny a little pleasure. Maybe skip that midnight dessert, I don't know, whatever you're doing at night or something. It's good for the diet also, probably before you go to bed or whatever. So maybe just a little bit, in any situation, even if it's sometimes only symbolic, just to show HaKadosh Baruch Hu that we are right there together with Him. It's not just we hear about it. It's an easy thing to say to heal Him, Rabbi Isai. But the idea is, what does it do? What changes do we make in our life? Do we really, is there a reshim in our daily behavior or the situation, in fact, that is happening? So I conclude just with one thing. I say the following. When we look out in the world and we see the tzaras that is happening, let us remember, Rabbi Isai, in the davening we say, HaMechaseh Shemayim Be'ovim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Rabbi Isai, covers the sky with clouds. What does it say after that? HaMechaseh Shemayim Be'ovim. HaKadosh Baruch Hu covers the sky with clouds. What's after that? HaMeichin Le'oretz Motor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu prepares the rain for the earth. So the Mashgiach, Reb Don Segal once said, you know what's being said in that posik? Listen what that posik says. Mashgiach said, when one sees dark, you see ominous clouds, everything looks bleak. But immediately after the clouds comes the biggest bracha of all, comes rain, Gishmei bracha. It's a lesson in life. When you see clouds in your life, you see darkness, realize that this is achana for much more greater and better things. HaMechaseh Shemayim B'Yovim, when HaKadosh Baruch Hu covers the sky with clouds, it's for a purpose, for a positive purpose. The purpose is HaMeichin L'Oretz Motor. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is preparing. He's preparing motor to bring rain. And HaNoisen Shelek Atzomer. Let us tell you this, Rabbi Isai. HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we don't have snow anymore over here. I don't know, it's way too soon. Let's say HaNoisen Shelek Atzomer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives Shelek like wool. Wool is white, right? Flakes of wool. What's the moshel? What does that mean? We say in the davening, in the Halalukas, HaNoisen Shelek Atzomer. HaKadosh Baruch Hu gives snow, Katzomer, like wool. What does it mean? So the Gadol said a gewaldige pshat. Shelek, Rabbi, is cold. It's extremely cold if you don't have a coat to cover yourself and to keep yourself warm. Guess what? HaNoisen Shelek. Because Baruch Hu only gives as much snow, Katzomer, as much wool you have to keep yourself warm. Because Baruch Hu makes sure that you are able to insulate yourself. You're able to be soivel to withstand. No matter what tzaras you're going through, you're going to prevail. Because Baruch Hu only gives just as much as you can handle. It appears sometimes you can't handle it. But HaNoisen Shelek, He only gives as much snow, Katzomer, as wool you have. The more wool you have, there'll be more snow. The less wool you have, there'll be less snow. That's how Kodesh Baruch Hu operates. And therefore, we take a look, the world looks for many, many ways to destroy us, either through assimilation or through annihilation. Assimilation means they try to befriend us, and we blend into the culture. That's all destroying us spiritually. If it's not through assimilation, then it's annihilation. Stabbing here and stabbing over there. But the Rabbi Shalom Rabbi Isai guarantees, and that's the Ratzon Hashem, that they will never succeed. We possess a certain resiliency that Kodesh Baruch Hu gives all of us, that no matter what happens, we survive. Vayachloish Yeshua es Amalek. How? Lefi Chorev. What did Rabbi Yosef Tzidushinsky say? Was the guy with the Rishalayim, the Malamokim of Rabbi Yosef Chaim Zonenfeld. You know what the Cherev of Yeshua was? Lefi Chorev is the mouth. We open and stand before HaKadosh Baruch Hu, we are mispalel. Vayachloish Yeshua es Amalek Lefi Chorev. The peh was the Chorev. Rabbi said, that is the sword. That is the koich of the Jewish people. It is the peh. And Mamela, therefore, when David HaMelech says, Va'ani tefillah, what does Va'ani tefillah mean? Tehillim Kuftes? Many different perushim, Ayin Rashi, Radak, Ibn Ezra. But I think it means something else. Va'ani tefillah. David HaMelech says, I want to behave in a way, Va'ani tefillah, that people should daven, they want to be like me. I want to be a dugma. I want to be the source of other people's prayers. Make sure that you behave, you conduct yourself in a way that other people will daven, halavai, I should be like him. Halavai, I should have a child like him. Va'ani tefillah. And that's really the way that Yidden are observed all over the world. All over the world, how a Yid walks, how he behaves, how he deals in business. People are watching constantly. Rabbi says, so we understand that if we see, Chaz v'sholem, too many, if we see that there are Yidden dying al Kiddush Hashem, what do we have to do? We have to live al Kiddush Hashem. That is now our avodah. If the Yidden are dying al Kiddush Hashem, then our avodah is to live al Kiddush Hashem. That we should be the source of other people's prayers. Halavai, we should be like him. Va'ani, tefillah. I'll be the tefillah of other people. Ashrei yovev shelimdoi Torah. People should say, Gevaldig, that someone that learned Torah. These are people who are children of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Let's improve our tefillahs, Rabbi Yisai, improve our davening, v'ani tefillah, our behavior. So make a commitment tonight, Rabbi Yisai. Maybe once again experience kol soso and v'kol simcha b'chutz Yerushalayim, shomer Yisrael, shomer she'eris Yisrael, v'al yoivad Yisrael, v'oy mishma Yisrael, t'ov simcha v'nachas, shefa, bracha, v'atzocha, b'yaz, g'el tzedek, b'mheiro, b'yemenu. Amen.